Our big story tonight has to do with, well, with how the city of Portland is functioning right now. From the mayor's office to the city council to the police force, they've all gotten a lot of criticism, and frankly, it's coming from all sides about how the city has handled the protests and the violence that we've seen this summer. Today, we did see a show of unity with an open letter calling for an end to the violence in Portland, saying in part, the violence must stop. There is no place for white supremacy or vigilantism in Oregon. All who perpetrate violent crimes must be held equally accountable. Together, we are committing ourselves to do the hard work that will bring meaningful change for racial justice and police reform. Governor Brown signed this letter along with 42 other leaders, including Mayor Ted Wheeler, Commissioner Amanda Fritz, and Commissioners-elect Dan Ryan and Carmen Rubio. Noticeably absent names Chloe Udaly and Joanne Hardesty. Now, before that showing of unity, though, we saw kind of a big crack in the facade. You know, 3 members of Portland's Citizen Review Committee resigned within 24 hours of each other. The CRC is a volunteer group tasked with investigating police misconduct. 2 of the members who resigned cited frustrations over what's happened over the past 3 months in the city. And last night, the committee chairperson read from one of the resignation letters at their meeting.
I truly believe my voice on the Police Review Board and CRC would help, in a small way, support a more just and accountable bureau. I believed real change could occur in the current system. I no longer feel that way. The events of this past weekend were a tipping point for me. We continue to witness excessive force used by officers on the streets. Members of the media continue to be threatened. Armed Trump supporters are allowed to parade through downtown Portland while pointing guns at people that aren't wearing Trump gear. These are just a few examples of a failed system with failed leadership. I can no longer support the system in any way.
Okay, now look, this isn't the first time we've heard frustrations like this from this group. See, the Citizen Review Committee is made up of volunteers, and they help Portland's independent police review investigate complaints against officers. Now, during these protests, they've been investigating more misconduct claims than they've ever seen before. But here's the thing, most of the time, the outcomes of those investigations are kept under wraps.
The vast majority of them cannot be made public. That's one of the biggest problems that we have. And that's something that, that we are, I think, internally are very frustrated by. And those are not decisions that we make. We don't get to decide what gets made public.
Now, the other issue here, these watchdogs don't really have much power. They can recommend an officer be disciplined or fired, but ultimately, it's just a recommendation. The police bureau makes the final decision. Commissioner Joanne Hardesty wants this all to change. She wants to overhaul the entire system and create a new police oversight board with more investigatory power and a lot of other powers, honestly. Voters are going to decide on this in Portland. They'll decide on the November ballot whether to move forward with that or not.